watch peeps? I love a good cheap watch, and I love my reputation as a cheap. So when Merkur announced that they were going to put out these $80 watches with in-house hand winder movement, of course I had to check one out. And I did an unboxing of this one a while back if you're interested in that, but a couple people asked me to open it up so we could check out the movement. So we'll do that today. Let's get to it. I'm Pete, and we are Chillin' with Watches. Wrist check. I had been wearing a lot of really colorful watches lately, so I'm wearing my Namoki modded Invicta 8926. It just felt like sometimes you just want to wear a plain old black 40mm diver. But let's check this out. It's like a sunglasses case, isn't it? But let's check this Merkur out. I actually kind of like this case. This is something you could totally reuse because it's got a really nice spot for your watch. A little pouch up here you can put a whole bunch of other things in. So let's see what all they got in here. Got an actual filled out warranty card, a tag that is playing jokes on me right now. They did give you a really nice polishing cloth, which I hadn't opened. That's just plastic. It did also come with this kind of cool two-piece strap, which is pretty sweet. Sign buckle there. I think this is some kind of, oh, there's a whole book in here. I never realized that. Certificate of authenticity that nobody cares about. And a giant book. Again, no one cares. Let's look at this watch, though. I love this little guy. 38mm these are. Now, there's a bunch of watches from Merkur that use this same case and movement. This one happens to be one of the fixed bezel variants. These guys, this was I think like $80 when I bought it, but depending on which variation you buy, these go anywhere from like $80 to $120. So let's take a look at this dial and handset. So you have this really pretty, I don't know if you call that, not quite champagne, I guess I call that maybe like an ivory colored dial. And I don't think this is what you call a pie pan dial, but you'll see it is curved around the outer edges there, curved downward. And that is also where you'll find your minute track. I think that's a really neat, cool effect. It's a crosshair dial, which everybody knows. Sniper dials are super cool, so I love that. And I did use Google Translate to try and translate some of this text. Now, this bottom text here, as you can see, says made in China. The top part, it cannot translate. I don't know what that means. Someone told me it means something wind, so maybe it is some kind of brand or model name that I am not familiar with. I wish all the dials you can buy on AliEx, instead of saying Seiko, why don't they just put their factory name in Chinese lettering on there? I think that'd be super cool. But that is besides the point. What we have are these gold applied indices around the outside, and you have these really nice matching gold hands. They're kind of, I don't call them stick hands, they're a little thicker than that, and I believe they do have a little kind of bend to them in the middle, which kind of reflects the light very nicely. And I think that big red tipped second hand kind of is a really nice way to add a splash of color in there. All in all, I think it's a really handsome package. The crystal is a really nice kind of boxed with a dome crystal, but it's not sapphire. At $80, you know, you get what you get. It is K1 mineral, which I guess is supposed to be second hardest to sapphire. This particular model has a really thin fixed bezel, which you can see there, but there are models that do have a rotating dive time bezel, which is pretty cool. The case is the real star of the show on this one for me. It is spectacular. I love these lugs. Let's see if you can see that circular brushing on the tops of these lugs, which is just really well done. And I love the shape of them. They just have that kind of 3D curve to them, and they kind of transition into this really thin mid case. I do think that mid case could have maybe been made a little thicker to eat some of this case back so it wouldn't look like so much case back is showing, because it's really thin. They definitely have room to do that, but that is just personal preference. I even love the way these lugs are finished on the tips here. Just the shape of them, they kind of angled down and in, and they're polished there. Just a really cool case shape. I mean, overall, I think it looks great from the top. Kind of skinned ivory, but used here on a fixed bezel watch, kind of makes it a little more like a dress or a sports watch. And, you know, if you look from underneath, you'll see that case back is really nestled up in there. Now, this is a pretty cool looking case back for such a simple laser engraving. I did run Google Translate on the back of this as well. I'll put that up here so you can see, but it's basically your standard spec sheet and some Fahnzi branding along the bottom there. It does have a signed crown. Just some kind of pretty cool looking little logo there. Sorry for all the smudges on the case there. And you can see here that as we transition into the strap, we're just using some hollow end links on some very kind of plain end links there. And a pretty interesting choice to go with a stretch flexi bracelet. I think it's super cool. It's quirky and fun. I know a lot of people absolutely hate these things. I don't have real hairy arms, so hair pullers are not really a problem for me. I know sizing these things is a little bit of a pain as you kind of have to bend the end of those tabs to slide it apart. I ended up not having to size this one, so I'm okay with it. But if you don't like that, this two-piece strap that it came with is actually super nice canvas strap with quick release and a nice buckle, nice hardware. All right, so this thing is a kind of new in-house Chinese hand winder movement. So we're going to throw it on the Timegrapher first, see how it's running, then we'll open it up and take a look at it. So I thought last time I opened this thing up, I had it regulated to about 2 seconds a day. Seems like it has slowed down a little bit on me, down to about -14. I'm probably messing it up by talking. The microphone is very sensitive. Sometimes when you talk, you mess up the readings, but basically no beat error, and the amplitude is pretty healthy. You're not buying this watch because you want something with extreme accuracy, but I'm perfectly okay with the -15, but it is really easy to even adjust that some more as we'll take a look. Let's open her up. And here we are. As you can see, it's not a terrible looking movement, pretty basic architecture. You have your kind of winding gear here, the barrel's underneath there. Here's your balance wheel, your escapement, and let's see, if you look real close at these two little arms here, those are the ones you use for getting rid of the beat error, getting it in beat, and then also for regulating it. So just the tiniest movement of those will give you vast swings in speeding up or slowing down your watch. So, you know, it usually takes a few tries, but it's not hard to do at all, but really not a bad looking movement. You can see the finishing on this thing is not spectacular. I'm sure those are not actually heat blued screws. They're probably just like blue PVD screws or something to that effect. But, you know, gets the job done. Going over the dimensions, we are looking at a 37.6 millimeter case that comes in at 44.6 millimeters from lug tip to lug tip. And including this box dome K1 mineral crystal, it comes in at 11.6 millimeters thick, and it has 20 millimeter lugs. Going over some of the other specs I just mentioned, we have a K1 crystal. It has no loom whatsoever. It is running the Fahnzi M01D hand winder movement, and it has 50 meters of water resistance. On this flexi stretchy bracelet with all the links, which seems to fit my 7¼ inch wrist pretty good, it came in at 76 grams. So let's take a look at it on wrist. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think 38 millimeters wears just about perfectly on my 7¼ inch wrist. I think here you can see how that case back makes it actually look like less of a wrist hugger than it actually really is. A little more mid case would make that look like it's sitting right on the wrist, but it wears really well. It's very light, very comfortable wear. Let's take a look at it side by side, some other watches. And here is how it stacks up to the 36.5 millimeter Traska commuter. They both have really thin bezels, so I think they really show that 2 millimeter difference quite well. Proportionally, pretty similar. Moving up to another 38, here is the Tudor Royal. Tudor Royal has a smaller dial, a little bit busier of a bezel, which I think gives it a smaller appearance. You can see that here. And it probably even does wear a little smaller as well. I have my 38 millimeter Namoki field case here. This guy is a smaller dial again, thicker bezel is going to make it present as smaller, but these two I think actually wear pretty close even on the thickness. Lastly, just so you can see what it looks like next to an SKX, here we go. These are 42.5. Much bigger, much different style, but just as a benchmark. All right, no loom, so that will do it for today. So there you go, the Merkur Fahnzi. Pretty cool little watches. Is the movement great? No, of course not. The whole package was like 80 bucks, but it is serviceable and it's easy to regulate if you wanted to try your hand at something like that. Now I have one of the dive watch variations coming in that looks super cool, so keep your eyes peeled for that. All right, before I let you guys go, sneaker check, wearing my Jordan 1 lows, and that is it. I'm out. If it's not too much trouble, please like, subscribe, and come back next time. Peace.